Hello, nice to have you here. My name is Gladys. I am your pattern drafting teacher. In this video, you will learn how to contour the over bust and the under bust of a stripeless bodice. Before we go into the draft, there are a few points you should have at the back of your mind. These include how this basic bodice was drafted. The block has extra 4 inches added to the bust measurement. Remember, when drafting we did half bust plus 2 inches on the half block, making a total of 4 inches on the entire draft. This does not mean that the bust is coming out with 4 inches additional weight at the end of the day. No, this extra weight is taken out in several ways: through the shoulder dart, the waist dart, the inside and outside side seam, including the slanted center back and the slanted center front. After this, the finished total bust width measured on the true bust line works out only about 2 3/4 inches or 3 inches more than the actual bust measurement. The waist shaping is done differently, and this is because remember too that 3/4 inches was added as is to the waist when this waist shaping was done. And again, there is a slanted center front. This particular pattern we are about to draft today does not require the use of slanted center front because the front will be on fold. So any garment that is on fold does not need a slanted center front. The value here will be transferred to the waist. Based on this, the waist shaping of the strapless bodice is planned differently. Also, when making garments that are tight fitted on the waist, the bodice is traced from the inner side seam. Remember, in the basic bodice video, I explained that this pattern has a straight side seam, outer side seam and inner side seam. So whenever you are making a garment that is tight fitting on the waist, so you need to trace your pattern from the inner side seam. So these are the few points I want you to bear in mind in the course before we go into drafting this pattern. I'll be doing tightening around the over bust and also around the under bust. So having explained this, let's go into the draft. Here I have my basic bodice traced from the inner side seam as explained. I also have my slanted center back, but the slanted center front is not included here because I explained that the value of it will be transferred into the waist dart. So to begin, I will be marking shoulder to bust measurement and shoulder to under bust measurement. The shoulder to bust measurement of this draft is 11 inches. So from the neck point, I'll go ahead and mark 11 inches. I'll be getting a guideline from the existing bust line here to that point so that I'll extend the line to the center front and the side seam of the front block. Here I'm taking the guideline and this is it. I'll mark it on the center front and on the side seam. If you have been following my video, you'll notice that I do this a lot. This is simply for me to get a straight line across the pattern. The under bust measurement of this draft is 13.5 inches. From the neck point, I'll measure down the pattern 13.5 inches. Also, I'll be getting a guideline to that point. Here is the guideline, and I will extend that to the center front and also to the side seam. It is only enough to have these lines on the front block, but when they are needed on the back block, they are only imagined, or you could use a broken line to indicate it on the back block. Here I have my bust line ruled and my under bust line. Of course, this is the waist line. Now I'll go ahead and carry out the waist shaping. The waist measurement for this draft is 29 inches, and I'll be using only half of that in this block. Half of 29 inches is 14.5. So I'll be taking out 14.5 inches from the existing block here. So whatever is left will be used for waist shaping. Starting from the slanted center back and towards side seam of the back block, I will be measuring 40.5, missing out the gap at the middle. I'll take that and continue it from the front side seam. What I simply did was to measure from slanted CB to the back side seam, missing out the big gap at the middle here, and continue that measurement from where it stopped towards the CB. And here I have 40.5. That's the width that should be on this pattern. Every other thing remaining towards the center front will be taken out as waist shaping. So I'll just take the measurement of that. And here I have 2 3/4 inches. So the waist of this block will be shaped using 2 3/4 inches. Because it's a fitted garment, I'll not be adding any ease to that. But if you require any ease on your garment, you can go ahead and add. But here I'm not doing that. I will shape the waist using 2 3/4 inches. This value, I'll share it between center back and center front, giving center back 1 inch and center front 1 3/4 inches. Front block takes more weight than the back block. So I'll go ahead and mark my 1 inch, marking it 1/2 inch to the left and 1/2 inch to the right of the dart line. At the front, remember I said I'll be using 1 3/4 inches. To get that, I wouldn't want to stress myself on too much calculations. I simply fold my tape to where I have 1 3/4 inches. After folding, I'll have a crease on the midpoint. I'll go ahead and mark whatever I have on the left and on the right of my pattern. When I'm done, I cross-check to make sure that I have 1 3/4 inches. You could go ahead and do the division, but this is the simplest way I carry out my division. When the fraction is too much, I just simply locate it on my measuring tape and fold, get the actual measurement. I'm through with the waist shaping. I've taken out the excess on the waist. So the waist remaining on the pattern now is exactly what I'll be needing for this draft. Next, I'll go over the under bust. But before then, I will connect the shoulder dart and the waist dart on the bust point. This is the bust point. Next, I'll be carrying out under bust contouring. The round under bust measurement of this draft is 28 inches. So that means on the under bust, I should be having 28 inches. Again, I would like to get half of that on this block. Half of 28 is 14. So I'll simply mark the other bust line towards the CB using broken line. This is to enable me get accurate measurements for my under bust. This is just the way I carry out my under bust tightening, and it works for me perfectly. So the under bust of this draft is 28 inches, and I'll be marking 14 inches on this half block. Starting from the slanted center back line as well, I will be measuring to the dart leg, missing out the dart, and continue that measurement to the side seam, dropping out the dart again on the middle, and continue the measurement on the front side seam towards the dart. Again, miss out the dart until I'm able to register 14 inches. This is how I carry out my other bust measurement. So here I'll be measuring, getting to this dart leg, I'll be missing out the dart, and then continue that measurement to the back side seam, this point. Again, from that point, I will move my tape to the front, still on the under bust. That is, I'm continuing from the front on the point I stopped at the back. So I'll be measuring it towards the dart, getting to the dart, and move my measuring tape again, missing out the dart until I'm able to register 14 inches. My pencil just got broken. 14 inches. So now I have my 14 inches. This is what should be on the draft. Whatever is left to the center front will be used to contour the under bust. So I'll take the measurement of that, and here I have 1 3/4 inches. So I'll be shaping the under bust using 1 3/4 inches. I'll be dividing this left and right, doing 1 inch to the side panel and 3/4 inches to the center front panel. I'll be ruling from the under bust to the bust point. I then use my curve to shape the side panel. And this is it. So I'll be connecting it to the dart point below. So I'll go ahead and blend because I do not want a very sharp curve under the bust. Having done this, next is contouring of the over bust. Yes, we've done the waist contouring, the under bust contouring, and now we are moving on to the over bust contouring. To carry out the over bust contouring, I need to take in the side seam of the bust 3/8 inches. That's about 1 cm. I'll be connecting that line to the waistline. This further tightens the bust. Remember I said there is additional 2 inches or more on this bust measurement. So tightening it this way further reduces the excess on this bust measurement. I will also go ahead and drop it by 1/2 inch under the arm. So I'm taking it down 1/2 inch. Before I continue with the over bust contouring, I will again do the same on the back block. I'll be taking in 3/8 inch on the bust line and then rule to the waist point, taking nothing out of the waist. I will again take it down the other arm by 1/2 inch, making the back block and front block other arm equal. Having done this, I'll go ahead with the over bust contouring. To tighten the over bust, we'll be using 100% tightening. That means whatever the dart here measures, we are going to measure the same width to tighten the over bust. Meaning, if the width of this dart is 3 inches, I'll go ahead and measure additional 3 inches to tighten the over bust. I could just measure what I have here, transfer it from this dart point and then connect to the bust point. It's one method of which 100% tightening is done. But another method I use is giving 3/4 of that measurement to the left and 1/4 to the right. That means if the dart is measuring 3 inches, I'll go ahead and mark 2 inches to the left and 1 inch to the right, so that I'll be able to contour both sides of the block. And that's what I'll be doing in this draft. So the dart width of this block is 3 inches. To the left, I will mark 2 inches. And to the right, I will mark 1 inch. So now I've given 3/4 to the left and 1/4 to the right. So from that point, I will connect to the bust point. I'll rule a line to connect to the bust point. So this is what it simply means to carry out 100% bust tightening. So the value of the dart here has been doubled. Next, I will be measuring 4 inches for the over bust height. You could simply measure on the individual from the bust point to a level to which you want the contouring to stop. That is to say, you place your tape measure on the bust point of the individual, measure over the bust to achieve what you want. But here I'll be using 4 inches and it works for me, and I'll be using it for my clients myself, and it has been working. So I will mark 4 inches over the bust from the bust point above the bust. And that is it. So from that point, I'll go ahead and connect to 1/2 inch below the other arm point. So the side panel is shaped already. Next is the front panel, center front panel. What I have here on the side panel is 4 inches. I'll be measuring the same 4 inches from the bust point on the center front panel. Remember, it must be on the same level. So here is 4 inches. The neckline is drawn according to style and fashion. For a sweetheart neckline, you could go 1 inch above the bust line, or depends on your preference. Then for a straight neckline, you could just take it straight. That means you could just from that point rule a line straight to the center front. For a sweetheart neckline, go above the bust point by 1 inch, or as style allows, and connect to the point marked above. You can now see that the over bust is tightened and it has taken shape as well. With this, the front block is fully contoured. Now let's move over to the back block. For a lower design inch, you could go 1.5 inches or 1 inch below the bust line, but here I'll be marking 1 inch below the bust line. Remember, we dropped the underarm by 1/2 inch the way we did on the front, so I'll be connecting that to the center back point already marked, giving it just a slight curve. You could go straight as well, but here I'll be giving it a slight curve. Here I'll also contour the back. To the center back, I'll be marking 1/4 inch. So from the 1/4 inch, I'll connect down to the waist level. This further tightens the bust. Remember, we are still taking out the excess on the bust measurement. Next, I'll also take the dark line up to that bust to the new level above, and then give it 1/4 inch contouring left and right, making it 1/2 inch contouring. This garment is actually very fitted to the body at the upper part, and so there is need to tighten it and click to the body shape at the upper part. So here I've tightened the CB 1/4 inch, and I've also tightened the bust by 1/2 inch, marking 1/4 inch left and right. Remember, we also tightened the side 3/8 inches. If you want to check the actual width left on the bust of this pattern, you could simply measure your bust measurement starting from using the true bust line. So measuring it from the center front to the center back, you'll be able to register your actual bust measurement. But having tightened the pattern so far, I think the pattern is firm enough at the upper part of the body. Now the lower part could be anything. But the style we are copying has a level of 4 inches below the waist. You could go 3 inches, 4 inches, depends on what you want to achieve. But here I'm marking it 4 inches below the waist. So the pattern will be cut along this line. I will just be marking on it my scissors mark. So whenever you see this mark on your pattern, it indicates the point on which the pattern should be cut. So I'll be cutting it from this point. And again, with my pencil, I will indicate the scissors mark, that is the point on which the pattern, you should cut the pattern around. So you need to do this, especially when you have tailors or people working for you, or for a reference purpose. You mark your scissors sign to show where this pattern, where you should cut this pattern. That's exactly what I have done here. So at the front, to go ahead, center front, go ahead and put a scissors mark around the pattern as a reference sign on the part on which the pattern, you should cut the pattern. Having done this, you also label it. Here is the center back. you cut these 2 pieces, and here is the side back. You also cut these 2 pieces. Here is the side front, SF. Whenever you see SF, it means side front. You are cutting that 2 pieces as well. And then the center front is going to be on fold. So place the center front on fold, and this is on fold sign on your pattern. Whenever you see an arrow facing the center front, that means it will be cut on fold. But before I forget, there is a pointed, sharp point on the bust point. That is not needed. So I'll go ahead and blend it so that the bust on that the bust will be rounded and shaped on that level. So this follows the shape of the bust. Yes, this pattern is called on straight grain. I'm giving you a detail on this pattern because sometimes you could have people working for you. So whenever you set grain sign, you want to indicate this on your pattern in case you are keeping your pattern for future reference or someone is working for you, so the person easily understand what these signs means. Here I have my. Before I end up this video, I'll simply crease the outer dart leg to meet with the inner dart leg, just to ensure that the upper part has a well-rounded and equal length. This is important before cutting out your pattern. So yes, here mine is good. It's matching up and the shape is fine. Sometimes it doesn't match up and you may need to reblend the upper edge of the pattern. So you just have to bring it together and see if that shape is giving you what you want to achieve. This will be all for now. If you have not subscribed to this channel, consider doing so that you do not miss out on our tutorials. This is a foundation for corset. If you are able to drop this pattern, corset will be way easier for you. Thanks for watching. Till I come your way next time. Bye for now.